All right, it's Sunday, August 4th. It's brew day. Actually, my brew day began yesterday when I cleaned all the equipment. I crushed my grains, got everything ready for today. So all I had to do this morning was walk in the garage, turn on the heat to the hot liquor tank, and went inside and had breakfast while the hot water for the strike heated up. So that's ready. I'm going to underlet again. Put my mash tun back together after cleaning it last night. And add the grain. I've got 12 pounds of 2-row. And 2.5 pounds of flaked maize, and another ½ pound of black malt. That's the grains. Here is the flaked maize, and I don't have a knife with me, so do it the old-fashioned way. Now, I'll hook up the hoses and underlet the hot water from the hot liquor tank into the bottom of the mash tun. Alright, I'm making a Scotch ale, or a strong Scotch ale today. This comes from the book Scotland Volume 2 by Ron Pattinson. This is an awesome book if you're interested in Scottish brewing history, accurate history. So I've gone through the book and I've compiled all these to create some of my own custom style guidelines that are more accurate to what the Scottish brewers were actually doing. And I've also flagged all kinds of recipes, including the one I'm doing today, the 1933 Drybrough Burns Ale. Let's take a look at the recipe as Ron Pattinson entered it in the book, and he took his from the actual brew logs and kind of scaled it down to a homebrew size. It's got pale malt, 74%, black malt, 1.78%, flaked maize, 16.15% of flaked maize. And what this is Ron making a concession for modern home brewers. The Scottish brewers would have used grits. All kinds of Scottish breweries had cereal mashers in their brew houses, and they loved to use grits. Once the Free Mash Tun Act of 1880 was passed, and they were able to use adjuncts. The favorite adjunct that Scottish brewers turned to was corn, grits. Ron also includes #1 invert sugar, that's 6.73%. All right, set up fly sparging. And I'm thinking I'm going to go back to batch sparging eventually, not right away, because I kind of set a goal for myself to do the same process over and over to get some consistency in my brewing. I'm going to stick with that for a while, but I think eventually I am going to switch over to batch sparging, or at least try it to see what kind of differences I get in my process. So for now, still fly sparging. All right, I'm going to call that good. Now move over to the other pump and get my flow going between the hot liquor tank and the mash tun. Now, because I'm making a Scottish recipe, I really should have worn my kilt today, but it's too nice to be getting sticky wort all over it and wiping your hands on it. Yeah. I need to get just a plain utility kilt that I can wear for work days, especially in this heat. And I do have a Scottish flag. I should have hung that up instead today. What was I thinking? Right, I am well above the heating element on my boil kettle. You don't want to turn on your heating element when it's dry, but I'm well above that now. So I've switched my my power supply from the hot liquor tank to the boil kettle. With this particular system, it's only got one power supply option. You can't hook up two. They do have a control unit that has two heating element plugs on there, but not this one. So I've got this on. I'm going to set it to boil. And turn the power up to 100%. And I believe my hot liquor tank is out of water. That would be a good guess what that awful, ugly noise was. So I've still got water in the mash tun. I'm going to continue draining slowly into the boil kettle, and at almost 8 gallons, my pre-boil volume is about 9 something, 9 and change. So I got a little more to go. This is invert sugar. If you've ever seen a British or a Scottish recipe, UK recipe that calls for invert sugar, this is it. This adds fermentables to your wort while also adding color, but not a lot of off flavors. There is a slight flavor component to this, but not like adding black malts or something to get that color. And this is supposed to be lighter than it is. I had a little mishap on the stove with the temperature readings, and it cooked longer than it was supposed to. And let me see if I can turn the camera around and get this through the light. Hold on a sec. Get a better idea of the color here. It's a dark, dark amber. Without the light shining through, it almost looks like a solid brown color, but it's really nice. I've made this before. I've used it often, and especially in my British historical English brews. But yeah, it takes a while on the stove to make. This takes about 2 hours of cooking time, constantly stirring so it doesn't stick to the bottom. But I think it's worth it. It has a flavor, a mild flavor, unlike Lyle's golden syrup, unlike candy sugars, unlike almost any other syrup or specialty sugar that you can buy. So try making invert. I recommend it. And my workspace is starting to get crowded here. I'm going to weigh out my first addition of hops. If my scale will turn on. Don't tell me I got a dead battery on my scale. Brew day hiccups. I went to turn on my scale to weigh my hops, and it won't turn on. Seems to have some dead batteries here. least I hope that's the problem. Is 1.64 ounces of UK Fuggle. .630. I can get pretty accurate with this little scale. 1.645, close enough. Man, those smell good. All right, this is my first edition. When the boil begins, and that should be real soon. Yeah, real soon, like right now it's boiling. So here's my 90-minute addition of hops, and I'll go set my brew day timer. Time for hop addition number 2, another 1.64 ounces of UK Fuggle. I'm going to recalculate my my hops a little bit for the Goldings. The Fuggles that I bought were real close to the alpha acids listed in the recipe, but the Goldings are 6 instead of 5%. So I'm going to reduce my hop addition to half an ounce right there. Maybe take one out and see what happens. Yeah, leave it in. All right, that is the .30-minute edition. Yeah. And I can go ahead and seal this up because the next hop addition is dry hops during fermentation. And the timer is going to go off in 3, 2, 1. Right there. And that is all the hops for the boil. So it started thunderstorming and videotaping became less of a priority, and getting the hell inside became job number 1. So I didn't tape the last 15-20 minutes of shenanigans, like adding the invert sugar and the Horflock and the yeast nutrient and chilling and all that stuff. That was done. The beer is downstairs in the basement in the fermenter. The yeast has been pitched, it's sealed up, and it's going to be happy. The numbers that matter, or the number that matters, is the final post-boil gravity number. And the estimate was 1079. The actual that I just measured was 1062, so I'm a little light. The ABV, according to Beersmith, for this recipe is estimated to be 8.4%. The ABV of the beer in the book that Ron Pattinson published was 7.5. So I'm going to be closer to that than my Beersmith calculations. So, brew day is over, everything's in the books, the numbers have been logged, so it has been written, so it shall be done. The next adventure, and I hope to get some videotape of this, will be our little beer vacation starting tomorrow. My wife and I are traveling to Marshall, Michigan to visit her Aunt Betty, who loves to go have lunch and dinner at Dark Horse Brewery. So, twist my arm. I guess where we'll be tomorrow. Then after that, Aunt Betty has some other appointments and things to do on Tuesday, so we're going to get out of her way and travel to Kalamazoo and visit Bell's. From Kalamazoo, we'll travel a little bit northwest to Holland, Michigan. We'll stay the night there, visit some of the brew pubs in Holland, and then on our way home from Holland back to Saginaw, we'll travel through Grand Rapids, stop in at Founders, and then we'll go to Hopcat, check out the scene there, and wherever else our hearts lead us on the way home. So just a small mini beer vacation coming up in the next few days. Let's take all that again, okay?